All right, so here I am with my dad, John Stark, who's been a very helpful person in my life in so many ways, but also just with everything becoming resilient. And we just want to talk with him today about his heart and what he believes, and just to pick his brain a little bit, because there's a lot of wisdom to be had that comes with gray hair. So, how are you doing, Dad?
And I'm grateful. You're supposed to say grateful because we are so blessed to live in this country. And having lived in other countries and third world countries, you get spoilt when you live over here, and I like being spoilt. I like 911, I like all the comforts of home, but I also am aware that other things like that in other countries are not that same way. So it's always been my interest to say if anything happens, you deal with it, but then have the resources to deal with it. And of course, I raised this young man with some of those thinking, so that's where he is today. But I've always thought that way. Just driving up here from the south today to come and visit with David is making me think of that, because in 2 days' time he's having a birthday, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, well, we keep aging as long as we stay alive.
And my white hair is just starting to show up on him, so that makes him looking better all the time.
Yeah. So you grew up in Africa. How did that play into how you think now?
Well, I think I left Africa because of how I got into trouble over there. Actually, I wrote a letter to the South African government telling them that what I thought about their apartheid system government, and I thought I can't probably stay in this country anymore after that, because they wanted me to be in their military, and having friends in that service, I knew that they spent 9 months training and teaching them how to keep this apartheid system government going, and I said I'm going to have nothing part of it, and I probably at a young age said some things I shouldn't have said, and my parents said, you're going to have to leave. So part of being resilient and part of that thinking, within 2 weeks, all my affairs were closed and I was on my way. I had my passport and I got onto the airplane and was on my way over here. So that's just part of resilient living, always being able to act quickly. Now, 2 weeks isn't quickly, but I figured they're not going to catch me too quickly, put me in the military. And,
right.
But it's just that whole mindset of no matter what happens, think through what's going to happen. Like coming up here today, I thought, well, now if I can't get here at a certain time, I'm going to be caught in city traffic. And I go, oh my goodness, I'm not a city traffic guy. In the little town we live in, they put in a second stop light, and I was probably one of the first people who ran it, because I'm not, nobody caught me, but I remember that day thinking, oops, I ran a stoplight, because I'm a small city person, and that's resilient living to me, is to live where you're safe and comfortable. And
right, and law and order, I mean, stop signs, other countries are just a suggestion. You should stop, but if you don't want to, everyone's going to, and here it's like, oh, you're going to get a ticket. And but a whole agency trying to keep you safe and protected, and now a lot of the country is fighting against them, trying to tear them down, and there's corruption in there, and it's sometimes I think a false sense of security, but at the same time, that is also what keeps people from not looting each other and doing whatever they want. So it's nice to have that, but I've learned a lot from you about a lot of different things, and health is one of them. So what does Melaleuca mean to you? What has Melaleuca done for you?
Well, this coming Saturday, we're going to go to what they call a launch, and it's launching new products and programs and things like that. But when I first saw all that stuff, I really was concerned, having gone through quite a few multi-level systems and businesses. I was concerned in 1991 when I opened my account with Melaleuca that this was another one of those things. And whatever that means to you, it's not another one of those things. It's nothing like anything you've ever seen before. Basically, it's consumer direct marketing where I say to you, David, has anybody ever told you about Melaleuca? And you would say yes or no. And that would direct the conversation. And if you said no, I'd say you need to look at this company. If you say yes, I'm saying, what's your favorite product? Because they have everything that you need, just about, that the grocery store has. And I started realizing that I could actually save money. And I had 4 kids. And David is the youngest, but 4 kids, they eat a lot of food. And when David was only about this long, he started eating. And he got into that bad habit. And I knew he wanted to continue that habit, so I had to keep feeding him. And I had to do something more to add to my income, and I also wanted health-wise, and so Melaleuca came into our lives. And I suggest to everybody, it's something you need to understand. Be an intelligent person, and intelligent people make intelligent decisions when they have all the information. And at the time when I first looked at it, I didn't have all the information. I knew all about it, which means I knew nothing. And it has blessed our lives. It has brought in literally hundreds of thousands of dollars into our home to put kids through college, to pay mortgages, and on the list goes. But it's been such a blessing in our lives, and I didn't realize it at the time, so I believe today that, I believe I know that it's going to be something that to the end of my life will continue to pay me for work I did, because it has that whole element of residual income. And all I did is say to people, you need to look at this company, and I think you can save money. Then we'd show them how they could save money on their taxes and how they could help in their health. And it just perpetuated. I'm going to be going to this launch. I'm going to be one of the people that helps promote it. And there'll be 400 or 500 people there. But in a state this size, that's a drop in the bucket as to what can be done and what needs to be done, and people need to hear about it.
Well,
so.
And the supplements specifically, like just recently your doctor was amazed by what they did for you.
Yeah, we were digging a trench at our house, and the end of the bucket, probably 300-pound piece of metal, hit my toe. And so we went to the hospital, and the first thing they asked, well, what medications are you on, and that kind of thing. And I said, I'm not on any medications. But they looked at my toe, and they said, oh, that doesn't look too good. And so I thought, oh, I'm not going to like this, because I hated to do that, because most medical professional people know what they know, they're good at what they know, but they don't know everything. And having grown up in a home of a doctor, I recognized that and realized that they're not God, like some people call them, but they know what they know, and we need them and we love them, especially when something lands on your toe. But so I started saying, well, you won't know this, but I told them I'm taking Provex CV, and I'm taking, and started listing some of the products I was taking for heart, for joints, for things that happened when you get past 70. And he says, oh, I know all about Melaleuca. Well, I've heard that before too, but it was a bit of a shock to me. And he says, oh yeah, I take the Prostavan, and it was for his prostate. And then he said to his nurse, he said, write down everything he takes, and all I'll say is this, is don't stop what you're taking, because they did blood pressures and all that kind of stuff to see that I was going to live. I wasn't sure, my toe didn't look too happy, but all it was very painful, but I didn't break any bones, and I thank God for that. But so now on my records, this was in a little hospital, not to where I go and get my medical taken care of, but now on all my records it shows all these products. And you go into the doctor today, or I go in today, and they'll say, well, are you still on? And they'll try to say some of these names. It's kind of funny, but to me it's fun because it's all in my records.
And of course they're even amazed, like you went in for a heart check, and then a couple of years later you went back and they were surprised because your heart hadn't changed. Usually it degenerates, but it stayed the same, which is rare for...
Well, they did check my heart, and they said there's something with some of the valves that are doing something that wasn't supposed to be, and they says, oh, you're going to have to have surgery in 1 to 5 years. And every year I go back there, they'll say things like, well, that's interesting, when they look at the electrocardiogram or echocardiogram, and of course when a doctor says that, you wonder what they're talking about. But they says that it's looking better. Let's not. We're not going to be doing surgery anytime soon, so that was good. And they don't know why, but it seems to be getting better, because 98% of the people that had what they saw a couple of years ago was like, oh, you're going to have surgery. But they're saying no, probably not now, and I'm open to that idea, to not have surgery. But I love this country. I can live here, and I can have a surgery if I need it. But in other countries,
and that top of the line supplements that could literally save your life shipped to your door every month. Like, that's nice to have that.
Yeah, I go online, or you can pick up the phone. But you go online, and I just hit a few buttons, and I press send, and they come to my door in 2 to 3 days. Now, we shouldn't say that out loud. That's not what we're doing today, because they say, it'll be more days than that.
You never really know.
But you never know, but they get there very quickly. And it's things that are life-saving. And to me, it's been a joy to know that David has 2 little children, and my son in Michigan has 5 children. They keep changing every once in a while. I forget sometimes.
Well, and I remember at the beginning, like, he had asthma. We switched to Melaleuca products, and his asthma disappeared.
Who's that?
Ken.
Oh, Ken, yeah.
Older brother Ken.
And then David has 2 sisters as well, and between them all, I got 13, or is it 14? They change quite often. Grandkids.
No, I just had 1. So was that 13?
That's 13
that was your
or
baker's
14.
dozen?
Yeah, it's yeah. I just love those little people. But to me, it's so exciting to know that they live in a house where they're safe from toxins and things that will hurt them, because you get a product line that's not going to hurt them if they drink some of it, or which you're not supposed to do, and they'll probably spit it out, but there's not going to hurt them. It makes me feel so good as a grandpa for little people. They're saying that what's under most of the sinks, and probably under many of the sinks of the people that might see this video, they're going to say, what's under your sink? And I used to say that. And I would quite often go to people and say, well, let's look under there. And my goodness, when you look at what's under there and what could happen if your little person accidentally picked something up or put it in their mouth. Show me a 2-year-old that doesn't want to go help mom load the dishwasher and put something in that thing that you would get in the store that would burn the esophagus and your intestines, and might kill the little child. Whereas Melaleuca, they were saying, don't drink that stuff. It's not made for that, but it won't kill them. But you can call poison control, and they'll say, you just give them lots of water.
And just flush it out.
Yeah. But then on the other side of that is those products work tremendously well. Like, what a concept.
Green, healthy, safe products that actually do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Yeah. So the license plate of my car for many years, because Melaleuca paid for many of my cars, over at least 5 of them that I can remember over the years, they had the license plate that said health on it. And I remember one time sitting in my car, and the sun was shining on the window, that the people couldn't see that I was inside, and they stopped at the front of my car trying to figure out what my license plate stood for, and I rolled down the window. No, I pressed the button, and I said, just sound it out, health, H-E-A-L-T. And I'd meet people like that, and they became customers because they already are somebody's customers. So why not try a company that's green, and they give you free products to start with, because they know what will happen when you start using their products.
Because we've been a Melaleuca family for 28 years now, and been looking for red flags the whole time, and still haven't found them. But there's a lot of hype out there about this and that, and competitors who are trying to tear us down. But it's nice for me to know that the stuff that I use to do the dishes and laundry and the vitamins I take actually work. And it's just like most of the things I do life with, and I clean a lot because I'm a perpetual cleaner, I'm not killing myself, and I'm not covering my house in poison, so that everyone in my house, after I clean the house, is breathing poison all day. Like that's nice to me.
Yeah. Well, and the statistics are out now, and the research is in that people after I think 20 some years they've been doing this study of people who are in homes that have Melaleuca's competitive products face a risk of cancer. The same amount of cancer risk as if you were smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for 20 years. And to me, that feels so good to know that, as I said earlier, the little people that I care a lot about and the bigger people are not living in that environment. And that's just it's a good feeling. And the study that was done was, I think it was done in Europe somewhere, but we use all the data. It wasn't done by Melaleuca, so it's kind of a nice thing to say that we weren't just trying to.
Yeah. So other people understand that we're all being poisoned, which
Yeah.
Which
Well, if you think of a transdermal patch, a great deal of medications are going through transdermal patches now, and from birth control to stopping smoking. I mean, they're just out there, but they're saying that the more and more we do that, the more they realize how much better way to deliver drugs for somebody who needs it. But what is actually being said is it's going through your skin. So what you put on your skin or what you breathe in is going to have an impact in your life.
Absolutely.
Like, what kind of toothpaste are you using? You don't think about that. What kind of things are you washing your clothes in, and then you wear those clothes all day, and that a little bit of whatever is in that still is possibly going into you. So it's people don't think that far through.
So in a nutshell, Melaleuca has given you better health, several $100,000, and a big stack of thank you cards for the lives that you've positively affected.
I don't know what happened a couple of years ago, but it was one year that somebody must have got on and said, write John and Linda a letter, because we got a whole stack of Christmas thank yous, appreciate yous. It was just, I still have the stack somewhere. It's just a joy to have that. One of the most painful things about being in Melaleuca, though, and is that not everybody's going to listen to you, and they're going to think, they have their misconceptions or skepticism. That's a good thing. I welcome skeptics, because that's important. But when the skeptics die of a heart attack or something, that's what hurts.
Yeah.
Because they didn't listen, they wouldn't listen, and that's sad. That is sad.
It is sad. The next thing is in leading through Melaleuca and that whole thing is normalcy bias, and that's something I know you talk about a lot. Is like, so what does that really mean to you?
People think, like when I came up here today, I was thinking I was going to go through some little towns, and I thought, no, I'm going to go through the way I know, which is the freeway, and it's because I'm comfortable with that and whatever. And so my normalcy bias said go straight up the freeway, and then I should have probably gone the other way because of traffic problems. But my normalcy bias led me a certain way. So I think most people have that, and they're comfortable in that bias because that is what has been programmed into your brain to say that's the way you do things, or we've always done it this way, or I don't buy online, or whatever. And so this has been some of the challenges I've had in our business, because we don't handle any products or inventory. We just refer people, and then they deal directly with the company, which was great for me. And with that whole way of thinking, people get caught into that. And so when you talk about resilient living, for instance, they're saying, oh, nothing's ever going to happen. When reality says is there's no country or continent or government that has ever survived what Melaleuca is actually. Melaleuca, you can edit these things out, right? You can. What America has done. See, that's my normalcy coming through.
Right. Well,
what America has done with putting like how many trillions of dollars in debt? Nobody has ever survived that.
And using credit to pay off credit and getting more credit to pay off credit, like eventually that's going to...
Someday that's going to come and get us. and you're going to have to pay the credit card someday. And so that is something that people don't want to think about. And when you talk about being prepared for inevitability of certain things, our minds, and it is a defense mechanism that we have, and it's helpful. It helps us get on with our everyday lives. We don't have to be frightened, fearful. But to me, I like to say, if anything ever happens, that'll be terrible. There's going to be great losses of life or whatever. But I have a great deal of peace in my life because becoming debt-free is the big one. But that's something you work on. But also the whole idea of, if we can't get any more food, oh, too bad, I can't have my latte or whatever. I don't drink that stuff. I will never drink something that will make me get to a place where I have to have it, because I've seen some people. And so what's going to happen if things do go wrong? They have to have these things. Well, I love clean water. For 3 years, I was in the water cleaning business, and I still love clean water, which means, I think on one of your videos you talked about, do something to get rid of to clean water.
Yeah. Well, this is good filtered
Good
water.
clean water. No chlorine. Chlorine was put into water to kill living organisms. And if you go into a bathroom and you look in a mirror and you see a living organism, you probably shouldn't drink what's coming out of the tap.
Right.
The cumulative effect of that is scary stuff. I have a book at home in my library that says coronaries, cholesterol, and chlorine. And they make a connection to these things. And it's like, that's not, they didn't even talk about cancer. It was just, anyway, I won't do a book report right now. But,
But there's just a lot of possibilities, and that's really the goal for resilient living. Is like, I really like the health and wellness, but like, okay, you're healthy, great. What about if an earthquake happens? And they've been talking about the Cascadian subduction zone a lot, and the tsunamis and cracks up. Like, that's one thing. There could be economic crash. That's another thing. It could be a war, a civil war, a world war. That's another thing. And like all these things that people are like, oh, that never ever happens. Like, you've obviously never read a history book, because it's just consistently every few generations there's something major catastrophe in every country for all time.
Yeah.
And people their normalcy bias is saying Walmart's always going to be there. It's always going to be full. I never have to worry about that. Even though this last winter there was a supposed snowpocalypse coming, it didn't actually come, but Costco and Winco got wiped out in one day. And everyone's like, oh, the snow didn't come. Well, that's nice. Like, what happened if it was a 2-week blizzard and all you got was one bag of groceries? Like, it's that's the normalcy bias.
Well, yeah, and that's true. But if you can push through that, I've had people say, well, I don't have any more money. And I said, well, if you can buy a can of tuna, buy 2 cans of tuna, if you can. And if you don't have any money still, well, maybe you might have to cut off some things like I did. I don't have cable TV anymore. Like, need my cable TV. Some people, we know that they just can't live without that stuff. Well, maybe you can, and it's just a good idea to find something to have a little bit of extra and just put a little bit there. I am also a man of faith, and I believe that if you look at all the miracles that happened in the Bible, when a miracle happened, they always started with something. Everybody knows, not everybody, but I know, the story of the loaves and fishes, that just a few of them, how that fed 5,000 people. Well, that was definitely a miracle, but when that happened, Jesus said, what have you got?
Right.
He blessed it and fed 5,000 people.
So have something to multiply.
Yeah.
Or food that multiplies.
That's
Grow your own food, or
Yeah.
fish, or animals and gardens, and like, that's nice to have.
Yeah.
God already set it up that food multiplies. You just need to know how to do it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how a can of tuna would multiply, but that's where it's important to have some kind of a faith and trust in a higher being than yourself. And I have, there's too many examples of having grown up in Africa where without that we would have been in a lot of trouble. We can make that a topic of another video someday if you want, but it's like there's some amazing things that accidentally happen, but when so many accidents happen, you start thinking there's maybe something else at work here. and that's exciting. That to me, that's very exciting to have that life, knowing that somebody greater than myself is also in charge. And that faith is so important. I mean, I think the U.S. military even says, the people who survive prisoner of war camps usually are people who are people of faith. So I think it's part of the training now. I think the late Senator John McCain said he really wasn't a man of faith until he got thrown into prison for the years he was during the Vietnam conflict. But those men who had that faith, that there is something else out there, were the ones that survived and the others didn't.
Right.
Just part of resilient living.
Right. But what do you say to the people that's like, oh, well, I don't need to prepare. God's going to protect me. I don't have to do anything. Like, and if I just die, whatever. Like, what do you say to those people?
Well, don't come to my house, but I'm glad I know you. I'm glad I know that that's your mindset. But I will say, if you run into people like that, it's like some will, some won't. So what next? That was my mantra in my business, and it served me well. But the ones that won't listen, you can't help them.
Right. Because I believe that faith requires action. I believe that the Bible says that the world's supposed to get perpetually worse. So why did he tell us? Like, just so we can see it happen and be like, oh yeah, we get to die now, or we should prepare. There's a lot of warnings in the Bible. There's a lot of warnings in history. There's a lot of flashing signs right now that there's things could be happening, and most people just want to ignore them. But like, you add all this stuff together, like, this is just Earth. This is what it is. It's a sinful, dangerous, scary, volatile place. People can chew up and spit each other out, and the planet can do the same at any moment. And and it's up to us to protect our families, which is a very biblical thing. God didn't say, you need to protect your family, but I'm going to do all of it for you. He said, no, you do it. It's you need to do what you need to do to make sure your family has food and security. I'll give you a heads up. I'll work with you. I'll give you my spirit so you can have, real time guidance. But ultimately, that is honor.
There is many places where it says, look at the ant. I think it's that in Psalms. Look at the ant, what they do. They store up at the certain times. God gave other people, some of them dreams, whatever, that they needed to prepare, and they did, and they created a nation because they prepared, saved a nation. So that's why probably a good idea to have some kind of connection with somebody upstairs. And upstairs connection is very simple. You got to say, help.
Mm-hmm. But you need to admit that you need some help.
Yeah. There's
and as for as much as I want to believe in FEMA and the government and all these things, like, they cannot take care of a whole coastal seaboard of people.
No.
Like, if the subduction does, from California up to Canada goes off, like, there are millions of people. And after Katrina, it's like it took the richest country with thousands of volunteers, the government, everybody, days, weeks, even months to get to some people, and a lot of people died. Like, what if it was like a seaboard, or if the whole power grid went down, or whatever? It's like, you're on your own, and your family, your community, that's what you've got.
Yeah, if you don't take care of your family, the Bible also says things about you. We won't get into that, but you are required to do that as a man and as a family. And if it's a single male or female head of the home, it doesn't matter. You are required to take care of your kids. Now, we don't have to tell you that. You know that instinctively, but there is a mandate for that to be done. And what that looks like for individuals, I don't know. But what I've been excited about is looking at your website and looking at all the things that are available that can help you in that process. And I think I'd like to say too is that it is a lot of fun to actually work on that and prepare for that, and then you're never going to be totally prepared for everything, but it's fun working toward that. It's kind of like a hobby, if you will, that might save your life, but it's a hobby nevertheless, and it's kind of a fun activity. And then I sleep well at night, because if I'm going to go down I'm going to, at least if things are going to go down, I'm going to have enough to eat for a period of time, and most of us suggest at least have a year's supply.
Yeah, well, I thank you for giving us that good foundation to I know some of your other kids don't like getting water filters for Christmas instead of gadgets, but I'm preemptively saying thank you for that stuff, because there is a difference between toys and real wealth, and when there is no grocery stores, real wealth is food and water.
Yeah. Well, when he was little, he didn't like the socks or the underwear, but he gets a little older, he appreciates the water filter.
At least we didn't have to make our own socks and underwear, which,
right.
if society never comes back online, how do you make socks? I'm going to go shear some sheep and figure it out.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We're never going to be totally prepared, but if you've done the best that you can, then you can say, God, what do I do now? Or help me now? And because you have taken the steps and gone down that road, you're in a much better place now, mentally, and also in a place where you could maybe help other people. So that's important too.
Because that's really what I want it to be for the people who decide to work with resilient living, is that you're not just in your house with guns out to your basement shooting when anybody goes near. It's I want you to have the ability to help people and rebuild and start communities, but don't wait until then. Start building those communities now so that you have some people to rely upon, so you can sleep at night.
Yeah. And some people might say that I'm not of that personality. I don't think I could. How would you say it? Some people say I'm not outgoing. You'll be outgoing if things really go bad.
Right.
You will have to go outside, so get to know them now.
Right. Or unfortunately, you become violent. And that was the two answers I got the most. The number one and number two tied for, I'll get guns, shoot my neighbors, take their stuff. And the other is, I don't really want to live in a world like that. I'll just let myself die. So it's violence or suicide. It's the going gets tough, stop going, or the going gets tough, get tougher than everybody else. That's what society, Hollywood, just human nature has, the alpha kind of thing where, survival of the fittest. That's true, but it's also God gave us the ability to think and to talk and to reason and to group up and to have laws and community. That's really where our strength is, because if you're by yourself out in the woods with a whole bunch of wolves, you're done for. But if you're out in the woods with a group of people with weapons and training and walls, you're going to do a lot better. So that's really what I'm hoping to get people to start doing.
I think I heard something the other day, and I don't remember all the points of it, but it was a talk about how God speaks to us. He speaks through nature. He speaks through the words that are the ancient words that have been proven to be accurate and correct. But the other thing was, and I really got interested, he expects us to use our common sense. There's a thought.
God gave us an intellect so we could actually think of things ourselves.
So use your common sense was one of those things. I always found that interesting.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna wrap this up right now, because people don't want to watch videos for hours and hours of people talking. But but I appreciate you, and I'm so very glad that I had a father who laid the foundation spiritually, physically, and helping me do what I'm doing, because I want to save lives, and I know you want to do the same, and you've been doing it your whole life. So thank you.
Well, I'm excited to be part of it. And we'll maybe see you again on a video sometime.
Sounds good.
Wasn't expecting to do this. There's the dog.
And there's our security system going off.